our hotel is named The Hand, and this is our RevSim Report. For our RevSim Report, we will be first discussing the hotel overview, then the performance in Year 1 and Year 2, then following the best and worst performing months, our general analysis of our strategies, and finally the short and long-term strategies that we have planned for the hotel. We will begin with our hotel overview of The Hand. In our hotel, we in general have 250 rooms with 50 dedicated to premium rooms and 200 dedicated stand rooms. Before any refurbishments or additions, the facilities that the hotel provided were a 125-seat restaurant with an adjoining bar that could seat 50 individuals. We also had a conference room and event space that was about 2,000 square feet that at most could fit 200 individuals. We also had a one-bay exercise room and a small pool and outdoor recreational area. Our services that we provided before any adjustments were a full-fee parking ramp, digital national and international telephone service, a guest laundry dry cleaning, guest room digital entertainment, and a room service. While we were content with these services and facilities within the surrounding hotels, many of them had upgraded and had additional facilities and services, so we decided that we would keep these services and add a few more, which will be shown in the next slide. Within the first few months of our management, we decided to increase the facilities and services that we offered, as the surrounding hotels were also increasing their facilities and services, and this would allow us to stay ahead of the competition. For the facilities that we decided to add, we decided a retail shop, a travel desk, and a valet parking would be beneficial, not only to the customers, but to us, as they were not too expensive to add, and they were able to increase our revenue by providing a new revenue stream. The additional services that we decided would be beneficial were guest room internet, foreign exchange, concierge, express check-in, check-out, transport van, and a turn-down service. These also were not too expensive to add and were able to provide us more competition within the surrounding hotels, and all of them were completed within the first year. These services and facilities were able to allow us to have more customers come to our hotel, and were able to not increase our expenses by too much. Regarding the current situation of our hotel before our management, we can see that within the occupancy, it decreases every year steadily, as does the ADR and the GRP. We decided that the best way to combat these decreases was to implement a maximization rate strategy. We decided to focus more so on the low limit than the upper limit of the maximization, and that would allow us to increase our ADR and GRP and to deter any more occupancy decreases. To further explain our pricing strategy, this graph has been provided to show that within all the hotels, our hotel, which is number 5, had a generally high price but did not have a high quality. We are wanting to our goal is to get close to the red dot and have a better balance between the high quality and the high price. This can be achieved with the maximization pricing strategy, but also to focus on our key customer segments. We generally are more attractive for business clients or leisure groups or large groups that are traveling. The business clients are able to utilize our conference room and the bar area to have any meetings. We're also within distance of the city center, which allows them to easily go between meetings. This is also attractive to our leisure clients or our large groups, as they are wanting to do day trips. They are easily able to go into the city center and take any public transport. So our goal in the end is to achieve a closer distance between us and the red dot.
Now, moving on to our hotel's performance in year 1. So, starting off our performance in year 1, I quickly wanted to look at our marketing expenses. Our marketing expenses were constant throughout the year, but we had one increase, and that increase was in July. Here, we increased our marketing expense up a little bit to around 5%, so that we can deal with the high season and the extra revenue that came in through that. Here we can see that in July we had a small peak in occupancy compared to our comp set, which was beneficial for that month. Now, we can also see that it had an effect on our channel management. Looking at this chart, we can see that our direct sales are our number one sales that we had. We decided to promote our OTA with marketing expenses. Now we can see for the months July and August, we can see a spike up for OTA, which is the green bars, up to around 23% of the share. It originated at between 14 and 15%, but it returned afterwards. So we can see an initial bonus of the increased marketing expense, but it calmed off afterwards. Looking at our ADR, we can see that we had a higher ADR than our comp set. This is due to our higher rates that we talked about earlier. Now, this had an effect on our occupancy, but we can see an initial high occupancy in January, higher than our comp set, which our comp set then overtakes us throughout the year. We can also see that in June, both our hotel and our comp set decided to increase our prices for the high season. This was already 1 month delayed, as we can see the occupancy increased dramatically from May to June. Now, as we had higher prices, we had a smaller percentage increase in ADR, but our occupancy was not greatly affected by our increase towards our comp set, and we still had an MPI of 103 in July. Now, bringing our KPIs together with RevPAR, we can see that we started off with a higher RevPAR than our comp set in January. This was due to the fact that we had the higher rates, also ADR, and we had a higher occupancy, which explains the 20-point difference between our RevPAR. But we can see throughout the year our RevPAR increases until our highest point in August, which was our best performing month. Same for us and the comp set, and we went down afterwards. But what we can see is as our comp set increased their prices slowly throughout the year, so their ADR increased throughout the year, they got closer and closer to our line, and even at the end of the year they reached our RevPAR. This is due to the fact that they increased from 160 to 170 ADR, and they managed to achieve higher occupancies at the end of the year than our hotel did. Looking at profits, this year was a very profitable year. We almost reached the 2 million in net profit. We also managed to achieve a 43.05% average GOP, which was asked for in our management briefing that we have an over 40% GOP. We can also see that our net profit, the orange line, increases throughout the season, so does our revenue. Another thing to look at is our reputation management or guest satisfaction. As we decided to have a higher quality and a higher price than our comp set, this came at a drawback of a lot of renovations throughout the year. We can see that there's a long list of renovations, and they totaled up to $638,000 in costs that happened throughout the year. But we can see that our guest satisfaction for our facilities managed to stay between 60 and 80%. And our average room satisfaction is between 65 and 50%. Our average room satisfaction is lower as it's more costly to clean and renovate and to have a soft goods redo of the facilities. Now, moving on to our hotel's performance in year 2. Year 2 was not a well-performing year for us. We can see straight off the bat that for the first 6 months, our occupancy was lower than our comp sets, about 7 points. Now, this was partially due to the increased competition that there was, as other hotels had built business and fitness centers, which we did not have the money to do, and as well as the ADR. The ADR started off the year at 175 for our comp set, and as of March, they had increased their rates. They had done this as they saw that there's a higher potential in the market, and thus they increased it. Now, at the RevPAR analysis, we can see from March onwards, the RevPAR increases. This is due to the fact that in March, they increased their rates and their ADR increased, whilst their occupancy stayed relatively straight, and with that, they managed to achieve a higher RevPAR than us. Now, looking at the profit analysis, we can see that we have few bars of net profit. This is because we only managed to achieve about 98,000 in net profit for this year at an average GOP of 27.65. This is very low for our hotel and even as low as when we took it over. This was due to the fact of the higher competition and our low occupancies. This even led us to have February and June to have negative revenues of, in February, about negative 13,000 and in June, negative 1,000. Lastly, looking at reputation management or guest satisfaction, we can see right off the bat that our average facility satisfaction is a straight line between January and May, reaching a low of 56%. This is because we did not reinvest anything into refurbishments for the facilities. This was due to the fact that we had low profits throughout the year and we could not afford to pay for these refurbishments, and we were planning on doing bigger refurbishments. At the beginning of the year, we paid $250,000 for a soft goods redo of our premium rooms. This boosted our average room satisfaction a little bit, keeping it around the 60% throughout the year. But we could not afford further renovations as we had no budget. At the end of the 6 months, we had spent $367,500 in total on renovations, but part of the renovations are not done yet and will be done in the next month. This was a mistake on our behalf.
So now I'll be talking about the best and worst performing months. So for the best month, we chose the month of August in year one because not only it has our highest revenue, but also our highest profits and occupancy, which was at 75.99%. Our TRevPAR was at $167, market share 11.15%, and it with a GoPAR of $78, partially due to our higher rates because it was high season. And then the month before, we just had our renovations that ended. So we were more attractive for our clients, but unfortunately we had 31 rooms that were out of order. So we had a rev variance of $330,000 negative. So partially due to these 31 rooms that were out of order. As for our worst month, we chose the month of February on year two. So it was low season, so it was expected it to be pretty bad month. But additionally to this, we had 41 rooms that were out of order. So we had a revenue variance of negative 165,000. Also, there was an increased competition because several hotels compared to year one had a lot of extra facilities in this year too. So we were a bit slacking facility-wise, and 10%, and we only had 10% of the rooms in the market share.
So I'm going to talk about the analysis of the strategy. So from this, we can see that our forecasting analysis during the year one was very incorrect. We did incorrect calculation, and we can see that there was a high peak during January to April. And so the forecasting was off during the first year. We were expecting a variation due to higher room rates than our competitors, but outliers were too drastic. So in May to August, we had a hard downfall. And on the forecasting, so we didn't use the proper calculation. So that's why we can see and we can observe that there's a huge downfall. And so we go to minus 1,600 rooms in the room variance. And in the revenue, we can see that we are losing high revenue, even in August as well. So that's initially from wrong calculation on our forecasting. But then we used a new formula, so in year two, which gave us more obvious numbers and more reliable numbers, So that's why we have higher states. And from May in year two, we're observing a high peak, and we're doing better now with better and more reliable numbers. From that, we have our calculation in the MPI, ARI, and RGI. So we can see that on the left side, we have the indexes, and then we have our year index. So there's a change in strategy from year 1 to year 2. In the year 1, we have higher numbers, and we can see that we are over our competitor set until September for the MPI. So the market index, we had a change in strategy. We lowered our rates, so that was an improvement, and we can see that we are more stable from that. And in the year 2, from March, we have decreased our rate. So in April, we can see that there's a higher peak in the occupancy, and so we're trying to get a more stable analysis and more stable forecasting now with the MPI, ARI, and RGI. The trigger points for year 1, we didn't use any trigger points because we thought that we were better on our forecasting, and so in year 2 we tried using it a bit, and we saw that there was a very small difference, and so we had a poor utilization in the trigger points. So we are still trying to figure out if we're still going to use it in the long term or not. In our price value map, so as we can see in the first year, in the start of the first year, we were with a high price. So that's shown in our data before. And with a quality that was on average, we can see that there's an outlier, there's a lot of outliers from the middle of the map, and we weren't that far from our comp set. And we, with our new strategy of putting lower rates, we're more in the middle nowadays, so we're closer to our comp set. But we have for objective to increase our quality, but not necessarily increasing too much our prices. So that's our strategy in the long term as well. So Serena is going to talk about it. And request for proposal. So that was not our main strategy. We didn't focus on this. There was a lot of bids made, but we have observed that our MAR was from 60 to 80, and our requests for bids were sent out from 100 to 150. So we didn't acquire new customers in that scope. So that's how we mostly organized ourselves during the whole project.
Now I'm going to talk about the short and long-term strategies. Regarding the short-term strategy, we noticed that the best possible result can be achieved by changing the price-to-value positions. This includes a more competitive pricing as well as maintaining a high-quality standard of the facilities and services. Our position on the price-value map is indicated by the dark blue circle, as you can see in the presentation. We had to adjust to the lower prices of the competitions as our occupancy was significantly lower than the overall comp set. The red dot represents our initial pricing to the quality level that we tried to achieve, which was much too high. This is therefore not achievable while staying competitive. Therefore, we decided to shift our new prices to quality level to the green dot. Furthermore, we noticed that the use of specified trigger points was really successful. We used rate reduction if the hotel booking was lower than 55%, or rate increase when bookings were higher than 75%. As also seen, we decided to not increase or reduce the rate of groups. This ensures maximized profits as well as enables price discriminations. In the long run, we plan on further expanding and renovating our facilities, which will increase the overall revenue. Most of the competition currently has a business center, and this will be one of our first additions. Furthermore, what we realized is that the RFP is needed in the off-season to fill our unused rooms and to boost our occupancy. We previously advertised them at a too expensive rate, which were underbid by our competition. In the future, we must price ourselves closer to the MAR to be able to compete. This will add a further stream of revenue, which will then also help to our expansion plans.